Hi.
Guess who's back?
It's me!
Olivia. In case you were not there last time, which is very probable.
It's almost a year ago.
Yeah, I think,
right? It's more than a year ago. It was February last year.
Yeah, we did shoot a video. I thought it even seems longer actually to me. I don't really know. I'm not sure. But
I just cut my hair. I had a wolf cut and now I cut it. Yeah, that's how I know.
Oh, okay. On the video. Well, yeah. So the video we talked about Natalia Ginzburg. We actually released it in 2 parts.
Oh my god, yeah, that feels longer ago.
Yeah, I just shared it to Whisker. Really? She had no idea. I was like, oh, don't tell anyone. Anyway, we talked about, we read a bunch of Natalia Ginzburg books. She read like few titles that I hadn't, and I read titles that she hadn't, so we thought it was actually a pretty good reader moment for us. And
definitely.
We thought that we would discuss them, and I'm gonna link the videos down below if you're interested in that. Natalia Ginzburg is an Italian author from way back. I don't know what era.
40s?
40s?
I think
40s?
she wrote from like the 30s till the 70s.
Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Hi, girl. She's also a mother, as I've been talking about a lot. You know, we might talk about books on motherhood on this channel, and her daughter is saying hello right now. Hi, Uma. And you're gonna show her the video and be like, that was you. So, you know, in case you hear yelling, crying, begging, scratching, knocking, shouting, visits from little humans, then be prepared. You want to say hi?
Oemetje, blijf eens even bij papa, schat. Wij zijn even aan het praten over boeken. Oké? Andere kant.
Oh, it's gonna be a memory forever recorded. I always blur her face.
Yeah, sure.
Hello, father of the child.
Hello. Come and get my child.
Come in front of the camera. You'll be at ease.
Come, little baby.
That's
There is no place for children.
That is so Nala. Oh, it would be so cute actually if we had a video with him.
Yeah, we should do one. Bye.
My child.
Were you guys recording that?
Yeah, we're recording.
So maybe keep them
fine,
out
no
for
worries. No worries.
if possible.
We'll totally put it in so that it's part of the video.
Anyway.
Anyway, cheers.
To motherhood.
To motherhood. That's actually how we connected. I think it's actually relevant to say because we both became moms at around the same time. And we both love to read. So...
And we met actually when Billy was just born and you were
Billy's her
pregnant.
Her son. Yeah, I was pregnant. I was going to give birth 6 months later. So it was very, very close. And then we were pregnant at the same time with our daughters. So it's a very special friendship reader based on books and on motherhood. Exactly. And we're probably going to talk about motherhood books. I don't know if we are right now. But it is a theme that we've been really wanting to explore.
But it seems like there's so much to say.
There's so much to say and so much to read. But I really want to, at some point, get to Mother Reader. You know that book?
Yeah.
Like
I
the
still
essay,
have to get
the
in.
compilation of essays. You have it, right?
Maybe
I
I
thought you
ordered
it.
Yeah, but it arrived at the wrong place. Anyway.
Okay, but you have it somewhere, or not?
No, it was sent back and then I got my money back.
Alright, whatever. Anyway, it's a compilation of essays from different writers. I think like some that are dead, like Sylvia Plath, I think, is on there.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like classic
Curious
accounts
to
of
her.
motherhood, and also more contemporary authors. And that's all fun and games, right? Great topic.
I have one motherhood book here, but it will be a maybe. It's not one of the highest on our pile.
We want to talk about books. Duh! What? We especially want to talk about books that we read recently, in the past year or so.
Yeah.
This one I read like a year ago, for example. There's other books that I don't have with me that I wanted to talk to you about that you would love. And so yeah, we're just recommending each other books. We're just gonna each take our turn recommending each other books. I believe you have books in Dutch translations.
I think
but that doesn't matter because they all exist in the original language. If it's a translation anyway, it's maybe this one not though. Or is it? Do you know?
This is originally written in Dutch, but Joke van Leeuwen usually gets translated.
Oh, yeah. I would love to read more like Dutch authors. Or
there's but there's
Belgian
few.
authors.
Richard told me there's very few
that
Dutch
are like Belgian
that
or
are
Dutch.
Belgian even less.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is. But I think
you have
Joke
a
van Leeuwen
shot.
is one of the
Okay. All right. Interesting. I'm very excited.
And Lize Spit.
Yeah, you told me about
she was
that.
very.
And she was also like you heard her speak or something.
Yeah, and Joke as well.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Can you say joke? or is that like?
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, because the name of the
exact
person
same
is
spelling.
written joke, and I'm like, I would have totally say, yeah, you have a book from Joke.
Joke van
Joke
Leeuwen.
van Leeuwen.
Let's start maybe.
Let's do it. I'm all ears.
So this book, Alle tijden zijn onzeker. If you translate it to English, it would be All times are uncertain, or Every time is uncertain.
Okay.
And it's actually about the French Revolution. A lot of you follow different characters. It's not really explicit that it's about Marie Antoinette, but it is. And it's just it's told in a way that, for example, what we see right now on social media with the cancelling and you see that actually it's something of all times. It had a different format, and I think that's a parallel she draws a lot of times in the story where when you read it, you feel like it's not right now, but at the same time, every emotion, every interaction. I just touched your mic. I hope that's not a problem.
I thought you were gonna say, I just touched my boob. Please be my guest.
I really like it. I really love her prose. So I hope in the translations it's as good. She's also a children's book
Is that
author.
the one that you said?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
when you had the reading session.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
She has a lot of fun poems for kids as well. And Billy was laughing so hard the whole time, and the whole audience was like, what is this kid she's really, really funny and insightful. She has lived a lot. She's a mom as well.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting also to meet her to talk about how she combined.
Did she talk about this book?
Amongst others, I think she talked about, because she used to be a cabaretier.
What?
Yeah, so she did some of those pieces as well. She even sang a bit, but she's 74 now. So,
okay.
It was really
That's cute.
nice experience, and I really love her books. I think she's one of the best Dutch authors there is.
Did you discover her recently?
No, I've known her all my life because
okay.
I also, as a kid, I read her.
But this was a recent release or something.
I discovered her books for adults recently.
Okay.
She's mostly known for her children's.
That reminds me of Tove Jansson.
Yes! Oh my God, that's such a perfect.
I know. That's so cool.
Yeah, I want to hear about it. I'm super curious.
Okay, I'll tell you. But I just want to know what kind of because I find it really interesting translated fiction. Because sometimes I do feel like I like a book. I would like it more originally. I read a book translated, and sometimes I feel like the translation really lends well. And sometimes I feel like something is inevitably lost in translation. I feel, for example, and I don't know if this is just coincidence because of the books I read or not, but for example, when I read translations from Roman languages like French and Italian to English, I feel like the beauty of the prose gets lost, probably because the sounds I feel like the sounds of the language is very different, and the rhythm is really different. But, and this is why maybe like Dutch translation, I mean, books translated from Dutch to English might be interesting. Whenever I do read like Nordic languages translated into English, it fits so well for me. Like I find it really fitting. I mean, the translation is really, for me, really engaging, and as if it was written in the original sometimes. Like it doesn't feel like something is getting lost, or I feel like there's a pleasure in reading, or like the sounds make sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like the only translations that I find like really amazing, and you said also that you found his translations to Dutch really good, was Milan Kundera. Like his translations to English, because I know he wrote originally in French and in Czech, but to English it's perfect. I mean, it's great. But I think maybe it's also his style isn't really necessarily about, I mean, it's not really mostly about language, but he really uses a like factual sort of style, because his books is just like, this is an observation, and so maybe that's it. But I wonder what speaks to you from her prose. Is it like
with Joke van Leeuwen?
Yeah, is it like Hemingway-esque, simple but rich, or even Mary Oliver is also simple but rich, or is it
I'd say
poetic and lyrical?
Yeah, I'd say it's very clean, as she's like, and maybe it's because she's a children's book author as well. She doesn't use any excessive words, or her phrases are quite like clean.
Okay.
But it's super poetic in like the ideas behind it. She's also a philosopher. Actually, I had this book as well here. I'm not gonna really talk about it, but she has like the whole, this one. I mean. She's just really good at putting thoughts into simple words and keeping them poetic or something.
Yeah, I feel the same about, well, Tove Jansson, which I wanted to talk to you about. I've talked about it in my previous video of the wrap-up of January, February, because I read it in the Philippines, and I was like, I remember. I love it so much. I mean, ever since I read this book, I want to reread it, and I've already ordered 2 of her books, and it's the same.
Which one?
I ordered the summer book with the grandmother and the granddaughter. Have to read that. And the winter book. It's funny because it's like the winter book and the summer book. But the winter book is, I think, just short stories of her, compilated short stories. Yeah. And it's exactly what you describe. And it's translated from Finnish. But apparently she was part of Finland's Swedish-speaking minority, so she also wrote in Swedish.
Oh yeah.
Interesting. I don't know anything about Nordic languages. I'm now starting to read like Knausgaard, and he's talking about in his books like moving from Norway to Sweden and like speaking Norwegian, but people not understanding him. And I'm just like, why do you speak Norwegian in Swedish if it's not the same language? But apparently it's so close. It's very.
I didn't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe
I do know Finnish is apparently more related to Slavic languages than Scandinavian.
I thought that
it's what I heard. I don't speak
prose
Finnish.
Was just beautiful, and it was like one of these books that I didn't even underline anything, because usually I do, but I was just so hypnotized by just the mood of it that I didn't like even have time to like put down my favorite passages and stuff. And basically, it's about a writer and about 2 friends. Like it took me a while to realize they were old women. And then I was that makes so much sense. Like the way they talk to each other, kind of like they kind of accepted, their fate in life and who they are and things like that. And, they speak in this very funny old lady sort of way, like kind of self-deprecating, or like kind of like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't know. There's so many interesting little observations that they make about like their friends or the other people. Like there's a scene where they're just sitting in Mary's place, the writer, and Jonna is the other one, is the artist. Like she writes, she draws, and they're just like contemplating whether to cancel on their friends for their dinner because they just want to stay in and watch a movie. But in this book, it's like two friends, but I know that apparently she had a relationship with another woman, and they were also like...
The author or the character?
The Tove Jansson actually had a relationship with, I don't remember her name, someone actually from the comments told me that this was based a bit on her relationship with the woman and how they were with one another, being like two artists, two aging artists in a way. It really reminded me of Mary Oliver, because I know that she also was with a photographer, a woman. And, and I just thought it was just like, it's really a little masterpiece. It just depicts like the scenes are so short, but you don't really, you just in their friendship, and you're brought from one scene to the next where they're in different situations. Like in one of the scenes, they're road tripping across Arizona, and then there's like just 3 pages of that, and then all of a sudden you're like in a Finnish island and they're like fishing or whatever, and just like these simple moments, but like they have these such funny and unique conversations. Like you're like, you know, these are real people who said real things, and you're almost wondering like, how true is it? Like, is it autobiographical or not? Which is of course another topic, but just this style of putting these little scenes, like intimate scenes together between two friends, I thought that was just so special.
Yeah, it sounds very special.
I think
you think she was already, when was this written? Was she already an older lady herself? Or because I always wonder if you'd be able to write from that perspective if you were not old yet.
I don't think so. I'm not sure how old she was when this was released. I do think she already had released like all her Moomin books. Because she wrote all these children books, and it really reminded me of the fact that, you know, they learned to tell a story with economy of language, and I find that really fascinating.
That's exactly what I noticed with yoga,
right?
Yeah.
And in a way, like now when I read a book and I start a book that is a bit heavy in language, it really has to be worth it in a way. I'm like, the story really has to grip me for me to want to kind of like expend that much energy. Like I feel so charmed by like Claire Keegan's writing, for example, because of that, like the spareness of it, like the going straight to the point. Like it's more about imagery than about language, if that makes sense. Like the mood.
But it's difficult to create such vivid images with such simple words, and it's like when you're able to do that, I'm like really in awe.
I do think that it requires a bigger mastery of craft, just to know what how such a simple sentence can just be so impactful, or like how can you create that effect. And actually I just saw a sort of on social media, on Instagram, there was a short video of Joan Didion, an interview of her when she was a bit younger, where the interviewer is asking like how she learned to write, or like if she had any advice, and she was like, I learned to write by copying sentences of Hemingway over and over and over. And I was like, I also do that, like not Hemingway per se, but just like prose that I like. I like to copy it just because it's like you learn the cadences and stuff. But then it also made a lot of sense, because Hemingway was the sort of one of the first authors to really propose this style. And she was saying something that really stuck with me. It was like, she said, it is just the effect of information being withheld. Like, you know something is being kept from you, like on purpose, because of that and you're like figuring it out, and so you plunge yourself deeper into the mood or the scene or the image of the scene. And I was like,
might be onto something.
Might be onto something indeed.
Yeah, it's true. It's more captivating because of the shortness of And
you also tend to not notice if you're not like a writer, for example, you also tend to just not notice the language, because I don't know, I feel like because we read from also a writer point of view, we're always like thinking, like the prose. And
But I do enjoy sometimes forgetting, and there's very few authors who can make me like, I mean, that's a...
Emily St. John Mandel.
Yeah, but she has a similar style. I mean, she's also not very excessive with her.
No, she's not. Yeah, she's really also about imagery and mood and stuff.
Yeah, but very explicit. That's the thing. Like, there's no unnecessary metaphor or something I tend to do or tend to use in live as well when I talk. It's very straightforward. Or if there's a metaphor, there's just a metaphor and that's enough. And I mean, there's so many choices you have to make and so many choices, like, there's such strength in choosing not to write something. Or,
exactly, because you have to know what, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. How about your prose? Just talk about writing. Are you like finding a inspiration from the books that you read to direct you in how you approach your own writing?
Definitely. I think that's why I love reading children's books often, or books like for my students, for example.
Yeah.
I teach Dutch as a second language.
Makes sense to say.
So the books that they read are often very, the vocabulary is not that expansive or something, but there have been a few initiatives to develop stories for non-native speakers by really good authors, actually, and I feel when I read those stories, I feel very inspired. So there must be something there.
Yeah. I'm also working towards that more and more, but without it, it can't be too forced. But at the same time, it feels more true. And that's what Hemingway also said. Just write one true sentence at a time. Anyway, all right, let's move on to another book that you have for us.
Oh yeah, this is the one book that you haven't read yourself?
Yes. I have read one book of hers.
So I'm gonna talk about the Vegetarian. This is like a book report. Today I'm gonna talk. Anyway.
Han, baby. She won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, and rightly so, if you ask me. Yeah.
Because the first book I ever read of hers was The White Book. Yeah. And didn't like it. But then again, you know, I feel also like Nobel Prize winners, I've noticed, literature-wise at least, all their books are very different from one another. So it's like I can't really judge that they kind
part
of
their talent.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's why they're also selected.
But I do feel like a parallel between the White Book and this one, but I've read Dutch translations.
Okay. Yeah, that's also another thing that to talk
if
about. But anyway.
the book is not originally written, I will make an effort to read in English if the book is written in English originally, but otherwise I prefer Dutch because then I'm more comfortable in Dutch. I really enjoyed the White Book, and that's how I discovered The Vegetarian, actually. It's about a young woman who, she is unable to accept maybe our worldly existence, and she more and more resists. She discards it, and she's like almost trying to become a tree. Actually, that's like.
Oh, I love that. That's been.
But I think about it so often because it's heartbreaking because she's really like she can't function anymore in this world, which is. It reminded me a bit of Murakami as well, the Norwegian Wood, like the heartbreaking depression that this person is going through, and also thoughts that are very close to home often. And then the way she's dealing with it is kind of surrealistic. Like you wonder sometimes, is this. Like, is she really becoming a plant?
I see, yeah.
Because you sometimes read it from different perspectives. In the first chapter, it's her husband or ex-husband, and then her sister tells the story as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like also very vivid imagery. It sticks in my head. When I think back on the book now, I have this, these music videos on YouTube where there's a Studio Ghibli background. Like the whole book has like that kind of vibe for me, like the sadness, almost like a fairy tale as well.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Oh, that sounds really interesting. I should read it. I was like, should I give her another shot? I guess I should. Well, a lot of that. Now I'm like wondering whether I should read the translation in French or in English because I follow this booktuber as well who's French, and she was talking about one of Han Kang's books, and then there was a lot of comments about like what translation is best if it was in English or in French, and I remember there was something about like the fact that one of the translations was better than the other, and I was like, I just have to pick the right one because probably in Korean it must be just really phenomenal, but I think also those languages are really difficult to translate, like Japanese and Korean and Chinese, because it's such a different.
There's a cultural aspect as well that you can like. You even notice it with Family Lexicon by Natalia Ginzburg. There's certain things you just can't access from a translation, and I think that's something.
That book is set like in Italy in like the post World War I or something, right? Post World War II, maybe interbellum. Maybe it was interbellum. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, a time and place that is inaccessible and very proper to its own thing. But yeah, okay, The Vegetarian. And why do you think it's called The Vegetarian?
Because she becomes, the story is she suddenly decides to become a vegetarian, and everyone is like, what the fuck? Like, why are you becoming a vegetarian? Like,
in Korea,
it's not really accepted. No? Yeah. I mean, it's not a generation, like, apparently in the book, the previous generation is very, like, no one was a vegetarian, and her generation is already more accepting, but still, you can feel like the whole environment has, like...
I can in Asia, they love to eat meat and fish. And in Korea, I think they eat like live things as well. Like alive.
Yeah, I'd give it another try if I were you, I think.
Alright. We shall shoot a video a year from now to see if we actually read the books that we recommend each other.
I'm definitely gonna do that.
And this one.
Okay,
let's talk about that one. Patti Smith, Wool Gathering. This was one of the books that I've hesitated to put in my top 10 of the last years, so that's why I want to talk about it now.
You didn't put it in?
I did not, but it was kind of one of my favorite reads of the year last year. And also I wasn't sure whether to... No, it's definitely not fiction, or is it? I don't know, actually.
I had the same question with Devotion.
I'm always wondering. I feel like Patti Smith writes in such a way that you're like, is it a dream? Is it reality? Is it like part reality, part a dream? Because she writes her books sometimes as if it's a musical composition a bit, and I really feel that quality, like that so poetry poetic. In her. I also didn't know whether it was like it's just prose poem, but the prose is just so beautiful, and I just really want to read it again. I have the same effect, but her prose is like she writes originally in English, and I think it's just so beautiful. It's also pretty simple, but it's also more poetic, I feel.
Yeah.
This is, for example, like a passage that I really love. Relaxed beneath the sky, contemplating this and that. The nature of labor. The nature of idleness, and the sky itself with billowing masses so close, one might lasso a cloud to pillow one's head or fill one's belly. Like lasso a cloud? That's so beautiful. Yeah. Sopping up the beans and gravy with a chunk of cloud meat and lying back for a little siesta. What a life.
Right.
Like you're immediately in this sort of weird world of hers. And her, it's like, oh, I'm in her imagination, but it feels so enchanting and real at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. I can imagine that's how she writes. Like she has an experience, and then during that experience she writes like thoughts that she has, and then I think she mixes like the report of the experience with the thoughts and feelings that she had at the same time, or reflections she had later on. It's very prose poem, like her writing. I feel even like M Train, one of her books. You've read it? It's one of my favorite books ever, actually.
No, I haven't yet.
I really want to read it again. I've only read it once, but I know, for me, a favorite book is like a book that I know I will read again, or I really want to read again. Or a book like that already read several times because it was so good. But like this, for example, this passage is also so beautiful. The mind of a child is like a kiss on the forehead, open and disinterested. It turns as the ballerina turns, atop a party cake with frosted tears, poisonous and sweet.
Sometimes I wish my
So
mind
poetic.
like could be like that still.
Floaty.
Like so.
She has a very floaty
Oh,
mind.
interesting. No.
Yeah, well, you know she has a Substack. Patti Smith has a Substack.
Really?
Yeah, it's really cute because like sometimes she shoots these little videos to talk to her readers, and she's so cute. She's just this really adorable old lady.
I love watching videos of her on YouTube or on her
She
Instagram.
She has such a relaxed, easy, but in the same time you feel like she carries such like weight of like her life, but that I don't know, she just oozes wisdom to me. I'm like, oh, I wish I were my grandmother. I want to be Patti Smith. There's a favorite passage of mine. I talked about it in one of my videos as well, from a book called The Unwritten Book by Samantha Hunt. I don't know if I gave it to you or not in the little book box. I gave her a little book box before I left. I didn't give it to you. Oh, I should talk to you about that book. There is like a passage because she talks about motherhood a lot in that book. And she writes at some point, like once I was, when I was a young mom and stuff, I had a mantra, Patti Smith is a mom. Patti Smith is a mom, or something like that. Like Patti Smith was a mom or something like that. And Patti Smith apparently, like when she became a mom, she dropped everything. Like she was at the heights of her career. She was doing super well. And then like she had her kids, I don't really know exactly. And then she just dropped it all off just to become like a very dedicated mother for like at least the first few years. And I was like,
Sounds like Natalia Ginzburg. Actually.
also. And then I was like, oh yeah, I should have known that mantra from the start.
Yeah.
Like that would have kept me like so courageous during this whole thing.
It's so necessary. I had the same talk with Joke van Leeuwen when I met her. And she was like, yeah, I just had this babysitter. And when the babysitter came, I was at ease and then I could write. And then...
Well, that's also...
But I mean, it's so interesting to see like the practicals. Like you often talk about the whole like abstract processes of writing, but it's very interesting to hear like the practical, like the experience of writing.
You have to be practical about it when you're a mom, and I think that's my issue. It's like I'm learning to be practical about it, and it's like a transition, and it's a long process. And I think it's not just for people that are writers and mothers, but also just writing in general. You have to let go of this whole esoteric, like I'm writing, and then finally like this beautiful thing comes out, and no, you just have to just do it and just like work through the draft. It's work, but
it's a skill. Like once you master it, it's a skill that it's it's so much more valuable, I think, than the more sometimes being very inspired and just writing that wave. I think sitting down every day and writing.
Yeah, I think it talks about this as well in the book.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But that's also how you like write a book, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think that's why I was also kind of like, if I have another kid, we have to be in the Philippines or something, because I know there it would be like so easy. Like someone, we were like laundry wise, for example, just that like takes so many hours of my life. Even when I just put it off, you don't do it every week, and even if you put it off, it still feels like it eats up hours. Just put the laundry in the laundromat, and it's like €2 per kilo, or not even. It was just like, and it's done. And I was like, that removes such a load, like that sometimes you just don't have the energy. I don't know. Anyway, Wool Gathering is a beautiful book. I love that it has also pictures in it. I really love books when they have like these black and white
She
pictures.
did it as well with Devotion, I think.
Yeah, I think she did. Look, I don't know what that is, but...
Is that her? No. Yeah.
Through her is drawn to the dreamer's life, and I imagine tending a flock, gathering wool in a leather pouch, and contemplating the color of the clouds. I love it when people write about the sky and clouds. I just find that such a beautiful Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, since motherhood, I love reading about nature.
Yeah, right? It's
yeah.
weird. I'm also like so at peace when I read like words like there was a mountain and the wind gusts on the mountain and the trees and the glimmer of the light of it. And I'm just like, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's I mean, so comforting. Like Mary Oliver, we were just talking about it. Still, like, very comforting to think about the wild geese who are just like flying overhead and
Yeah,
the
there's something
rain's
magical.
like.
There's something magical about putting it in a sentence. Because if like when you put it in the sentence, that's the only thing that there is, and it conjures up in your mind, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I needed that imagery. And that's when really like it's her poems on nature that really had an effect on my writing and on my reading as well, and how I experience imagery within novels and things like that. Anyway, let's move on to another book.
Okay, one that you've read but I really wanted to talk about. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Is actually it's not a book. It's a speech by David Foster Wallace.
But it became a book. You can find it in English as well.
Yes, I read it in Dutch because my mom gave it to me. But I really want to read it in English as well to see how the prose is there.
It is a really interesting prose in English.
I think I chose this one, mostly for just the wisdom that's in here.
It's really... I remember it was striking, but now I kind of forgot. So you have to refresh my memory. But I remember Alex, my mentor, actually sent it to me. Like, you don't know David Foster? You watch this, bitch. And actually, I think he gave me the book and the YouTube. There's a YouTube video. There's a speech on YouTube out there. So if you don't want to buy the book, the speech
maybe we can
is
add
in his voice. I think it's actually his voice recorded as well. But anyway, I'll let you talk.
It's actually the title is Dit is water, or This is
water.
This is water in English. It starts with the two fish, then a parable. Is that how you say it in English? Parable. With two fish. Two young fish, they're swimming in the water, and another fish crosses them.
Imagery.
And an older fish, and he's like, lekker water, so nice water, right? And then the fish are
what water?
Yeah, the fish are like, what the fuck is water? And that's like the whole idea of the book is when you because it's a graduation speech, I think, or a commencement speech.
Imagine being the ones receiving that speech for the first time.
Oh my god.
gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like the grown-up version of everybody wears sunscreen.
No.
You never listen to it? It's like a YouTube video. You really have to watch it. But it's like something I watched as a teenager, and I was like, whoa, wisdom. And I feel like this is a bit the grown-up version. Okay. Of just looking at what's in front of you and trying to experience everything firsthand and not secondhand. That's how I often feel like I experience everything secondhand when I'm too much in my head. I just experience the thoughts about things or trying to grasp everything and not just the fact that like I'm here breathing and those leaves are like waving in the wind and don't need to think about it. I think that's the gist of it. I mean, he also warns like for the dangers of thinking.
I love that.
I reread like the first part last night.
It's so relevant to like all the stuff that we're talking about lately.
But it's like I want to give this book to anyone. Like,
I understand.
But every age, like it's not even.
Guys, watch it. This is Water. David Foster Wallace.
Yeah,
he killed himself, I think.
I first read it without the knowledge, and then I reread it with the knowledge.
And it's much more meaningful.
Yeah, because he actually speaks about like it's no coincidence that people killing themselves, they choose their head. I'm sorry, this is triggering again.
He wrote about that. Maybe I'll just put a trigger warning at some point before we talk about this book. And it's really interesting because I also often reflect about this in terms of also reading and writing, because you're automatically in a place where you're in a different world than the present and the instance and everything. And it does so much. I feel like reading, I will always vouch for it, and reading, maybe not writing, but reading itself is like, it brings you, it elevates life in such a specific way, but there's also dangers to it. Like sometimes when I read a book that's so good, I can often mistake it for reality, or I'm often wondering like, is this really real? Like I remember, for example, just an example, when my mind was a bit younger and a bit more naive and a bit more easily persuaded, when I was reading Dan Brown's the Da Vinci Code, I was like,
I didn't see
real.
this coming.
The professor is real. Like what? All this, and I was like, this is a conspiracy theory. And then it really took me like, I mean, it's an enormous time if you're just like, you know, just finished reading, but it would take me several minutes after I put down the book to realize that it was just fiction. And I was like not really reading real story, and that like all the symbols and stuff were like just invented. And I was really like, but how did the author figure this out and things like that? But that's just an example, because there's so many influential books out there, like The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I don't know if you heard about that. You've definitely heard about that. It's like Kanye West's favorite book or whatever, but it's like super weird because it's all about like, you know, it's a really specific point of view or lens. And actually when you listen to Robert Greene talk in podcasts and stuff, he says really interesting things, and he has a lot of points. But the fact that it's like from that filter, you know, from that perspective of things, it's really
like
dangerous.
Machiavelli as well.
What?
Machiavelli?
Yeah, Machiavelli.
Was also like by all
exactly.
the fascists.
Yeah. And it's still one of the best sellers, huh? Like every bookstore sells Machiavelli's book. And that's where the word Machiavellian comes from. And that just that fact, when I don't remember where I heard it or read about it, but I was like, you will just, if you notice, if you go into any bookstore, at Luddites they have it. Machiavelli's book is there and it sells. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And you know, we were talking about,
Have you read it?
I haven't read it. I'm like, I probably should. I would like to read it, but I feel like it has to be in a very specific. I would the only context I would probably read it is if I needed to read it for like a project. If I wanted to write something that would be related to it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like something that
I wouldn't read it out of pleasure because it's such a dark thing. And the thing is, like, you know, we were talking about what, you know, things that change your perception and stuff. Words really do that, and attention defines reality. What you pay attention to.
That's exactly his point.
I love that.
Learning to think is not learning the thinking process. It's deliberately choosing and also knowing that it's just thoughts and
yeah. That's so interesting, actually.
Truth.
I love that because I've been wanting to look into it again, and I realized that I did the time that I read or watched This Is Water was when I was like, it was 10 years ago. I was way younger, and I didn't necessarily have all this it didn't really solidify in me that, you know, perception and like the power of
the prism of truth.
Yeah, preconceptions and things like that. It really didn't seep into me yet. So when I remember being very affected by this speech, but not necessarily
grasping the whole.
Maybe not grasping the whole thing, and maybe that's why I was so amazed by it.
But I think at any age,
I think it's important to know today, especially like, just we have to be careful. Yeah. Because reality is literally what we're dealing with, and
we're jumping to conclusions about everything.
Especially that we're all living in a meta reality. We're like living in the screen reality, and the usual. There's almost one more battery in the thing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Maybe, how many books did you talk about? 1,
3, so it's your turn.
Okay, maybe just a third one then. 3 books each. Okay. I wanna talk about Milan Kundera's The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, because Milan Kundera is just a genius.
It was super fast.
He's a genius. But I feel like also a lot has already been said. However, a lot has not been said about James Salter. James Salter. He's the most underrated author, apparently, of a specific time.
Which time?
He was born in 25. He was the 20th century. And I think he died, like not too long ago. I think he had a long life.
He died in 2015.
But he liked to party. And so he didn't write that much. He wrote, like, I think 6 novels. I mean, it's still a lot. But this is so, like, I just read it, and it's amazing. It's described as his classic novel. I'm just going to read the back so it's quick. Set in provincial France in the 1960s, a sport and a pastime is the intensely carnal story. Part shocking reality, part feverish dream of an affair between a footloose Yale dropout and a French shopgirl. Yet what is really at stake is not merely sex, but our need to tell stories about love and to judge our own amorous success and failures through the lens of other people's lives.
It connects kind of like the lens thing.
Everything, everything is connected. No, what is interesting is basically a love affair, a steamy love affair. So there's a lot of sex scenes.
Gonna read that when I'm ovulating.
No, it's very beautifully written. It's not like Sally Rooney. You know what I mean? She
I
writes
do
a
like
lot of
her sex scenes.
I do like her sex scenes, but it's more poetically put, in my opinion. But it's told from the perspective of another guy. It's like really weird. So that's why he's talking about it. It's so special because that's why it's like he goes into like the intimacy of these characters, but you don't really know how he gets that information. And he says it in some parts, like, of course none of this is true. I say Autant because it's set in the village called Autant. I said Autant, but it could just be Auxerre, it could be anything. And you're like, what is this? Is this a dream? Is this reality? But he intersperses it between his life. He says, he's an unnamed narrator. And then he talks about this guy and that girl. But then he comes back to what he's
Does he have an own story or is he just a narrator?
We just know that he's like vacationing in a village in France, in the province. And that his friend, the Yale dropout, is also in the province.
And he's the one having the affair.
He's the one having the affair, and he goes into the affair in great detail, and then he brings it back to himself and being like, I don't really know what happened, or like, and you're like, what? And then it's just so good, and the prose.
Sounds very interesting.
I just want to read a passage before, because I'm afraid that the camera will die. But anyway, for example, this directly like talks about the whole affair of how he perceives it. Certain things I remember exactly as they were. They are merely discolored a bit by time, like coins in the pocket of a forgotten suit. Most of the details, though, have long since been transformed or rearranged to bring others of them forward. Some, in fact, are obviously counterfeit. They are no less important. One alters the past to form the future. But there is a real significance to the pattern which finally appears, which resists all further change. In fact, there is a danger that if I continue to try, the whole concert of events will begin to fall apart in my hands like old newspaper. I can't bear to think of that. The myriad past, it enters us and disappears, except that within it, somewhere, like diamonds, exists the fragments that refuse to be consumed. Sifting through, if one dares, and collecting them, one discovers the true design.
Whoa, I think about that so much, and it was put so eloquently.
I know, and that's what he wants to, like, it's like the universal love story. Look, guys, we all have the same story, more or less.
Yeah.
The coming of age, first love, steamy affair, you're like into it and then not, and then like the whole like dynamic of going into deeper into love and all that, and that's what it was fascinating about this book.
I'm definitely gonna read it.
I've just ordered another one of his book called The Years. It's about marriage. It's about marriage, like two
The
people.
Years, like Annie Ernaux?
Light years. Light years. But about a marriage, and they have kids, and they have beautiful moments, like our day to day, and then like the erosion of that. And I was like, I know.
Not sure if I'm ready for that.
But apparently it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and his prose is really amazing. It's also very spare and short. But it's more like rhythmic. Like it's mostly short sentences.
Is it accessible for someone who doesn't speak English as well?
I find it very accessible. Because it's a lot of scenes as well. But anyway, let's end on the note of love and the erosion of love. Because I don't know how long this will last. This is already 50 minutes that we've been talking. 50 minutes of sipping some wine. I'm not used to wine anymore, so my head is a bit woozy already. Do you want to smoke a joint?
Let's.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks for listening to us. These are 6 books then, I guess, in total. There's a lot we still wanted to talk about, but I think we should do this more often.
Yeah.
And a lot of people commented on the other video, were like, this was so good. And I was like, we're just talking. Hello. Oh, the daughter is calling us again.
Yeah, last time we did a lot of preparation, and now we're just like
Yeah.
drinking
Yeah, we
wine
were
and
like,
talking.
yeah, but with the lights and stuff,
Yeah.
it's too overkill now. This is actually just more.
We have the sunshine on our side this
Sunshine.
time.
As soon as the sunshine comes out of Belgium, it's like.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm lucky because I feel like last year was horrible. Like there was no sun.
No.
And
It
now
lasted
suddenly-
like until June. End of June, we had a bit of sun, but before that, like.
the obligatory
Anyway.
topic of the weather. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks for watching. Tune in soon. We're gonna be back. I'm gonna force her back. Even though
Thanks for
she's-
having me.
She's super busy with life and she actually has interesting things to do. She actually does something for the society, which is teach kids stuff.
Dude.
It's true. I'm like, what am I doing? Putting a camera and blabbering on about unsolicited opinions.
Well, I feel this is as necessary when I'm doing it.
good.
Sometimes when I'm teaching, well, I'm also just blabbering most of the time.
Okay, good to know. Okay. Well, you know
Anyway.
what? If you want more, be our guest, subscribe, follow, comments, give me your suggestions. I actually read a few suggestions that people give me. Like, I really read them. I'm like, okay,
Nice.
yeah, I'm going to read that book.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, that was really amazing. One of them was bad, though. I'm not going to Anyway, bye. Oh, I can just press here. Let's smile for the camera and do this.
I have to look
Maybe like show all our books again, like last time.
And then like this?
Ah, yeah.
Is that your...
I do this.